you doing the laptop on you?
Yeah, I figured why not, just so I can look up random shit and stuff while we're going, like we're in the news.
We're in the news. I like it.
Are you on laptop?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Not Famous Tattoo Podcast. I'm your host, Dre, and your other host,
Josh.
Josh, right over here. So this is episode 2 in a 3-part series.
Tattooing then and now.
How it's changed, and boy, has it changed. So last time we kind of mostly explored, changes across the board. We talked about coil versus rotary a little bit.
Walk-ins versus appointments,
customer service, different shops. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about, still again, like tattooing now versus then, but we're going to look at some of the changes in technology and the stuff we use every day to make beautiful tattoos on you. We're going to look at some of the convention changes as well.
Cultural
and
aspects.
Culturally, and what television has done to our industry with things like Ink Master and all the
magazines,
tattoo TV shows and even magazines and how they've impacted it as well. So,
welcome.
Thank you again. If you are tuning in for the first time or the third time, we appreciate you
very much.
And of course, we want you to like, follow, comment, subscribe. All that stuff helps us tremendously. And we're just trying to, this is trying to make a tattoo podcast for the people, as it were. Anyway, let's just start off with Ink Master.
Yes.
That's kind of we're going to work it back. So probably the biggest change in our industry culturally and where we fit is with Ink Master, the competition TV show about tattooing.
LA Ink, Miami Ink, New York Ink,
all those like reality shows about tattooing and
bringing tattooing into your living room.
Yep, into the public eye. So like Josh and I were talking earlier about, before all these TV shows came to be, you would go to a convention maybe and see your favorite tattoo artist, famous tattoo artist, and you could recognize them. But those people they could go to the grocery store and not be recognized by anybody.
100%.
Or wherever. But and then Ink Master, and again, LA Ink, New York Ink, all those types of shows changed it like they started making tattoo artists celebrities.
In the public image.
They're on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Sure. Ink Master, that started 12-ish years ago. I remember getting emails from them looking for tattoo artists to come to the auditions in Denver for us. And it was kind of a joke in the industry. Like people were like, I think that's a great way to maybe end your career, get on TV, because we weren't used to our industry being on TV and part of just general society in any way, shape, or form, outside of if you were a tattoo artist or you were an avid collector or you got tattoos.
Yeah.
I
don't even think it really was like respected or thought about. I mean,
yeah.
Shit. I feel like I just found out Ink Master debuted in 2012.
Oh, that's a good guess.
And I like it.
My memory serves
correctly. And it just, I think people were like, thought it was a joke of a career, I mean, career is a long shot. I really just think that they were like, oh, so you like graduated from prison and continue to draw on people and do like ugly, job ruining, future ruining art on people,
or whatever. Well,
stamps.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely were going to make, mid six figures as a tattoo artist, and you weren't going to be schmoozing with other celebrities in Hollywood. And
now you got tattoo artists joining country clubs and buying Lamborghinis and centerfolds in Vogue magazine, and just look where it's gone.
Yep.
Because of that.
Well, and they're doing celebrity guest appearances and stuff like that. And I think, you know, and yeah, now if you get on Ink Master, it's like, even if you drop out, if you get, you know, booted off the show first episode, it's still going to just launch your career.
Yeah, and like your followers and your just online presence.
Followers are going up, everything. And most of those guys go on to do other TV related things, podcast, or they have an offshoot show or whatever it is.
And it's really interesting. Like, I'd listened to a lot of artists speak about their experience on Ink Master, and I thought it was really funny because I'm a person that, like, TV kind of like, I'm gullible. I'm like, oh, this is real, even though reality TV is obviously scripted. But to me, like, I don't know if it's like just my want to think things are real, but I don't know. I was listening to one of the contestants who was from Florida. I can't remember his name. And he was like, yeah, I went to New Jersey, and they're like, to film the show. And they were like, oh, you're from Florida. Like, we're going to make you wear like board shorts and a tank top and like spike your hair and like make you embody Florida. And they just have this like new image, honestly, which I think some artists are like, I just can't do that. You know, I mean,
I've definitely heard they dress you for the part. Right.
The Colorado dudes are wearing like beanies and like have that snowboarder vibe.
Got cowboy boots on the Texas dude.
Yeah, and like
stuff like that. Yeah.
Enhance
which is kind of weird. Like, I always thought, you know, you'd want to get full value for the people that are on that show and let them be artists and look how they look.
Definitely.
Because it's not like we're not dressing crazy, like where we're from anyway.
Yeah, you know,
like we're artists. Like our artwork, like we like to do. Like I paint my toenails. Like,
we don't have a dress code.
Yeah, like, it's like we're gonna reflect a little bit, maybe our history or where we're from too. Like,
definitely.
You've seen me. I'm not afraid to wear a cowboy hat every now and again, being from Oklahoma. But yeah, it's just I found it odd that they dress them.
I do too. And I think there's still an aspect of like kind of going back to last episode where the whole, some people are for the shop and some people are for themselves. And like, some people really want to get on the show to like boost their likeness online and become more readily available to like the public eye. I mean, my mom watched LA Ink with me when I was in middle school, you know, and like it was, I don't know if she was like super into it, but if she saw Kat Von D walking down the street, she'd know who she was. And be like, I've seen your art, you know. It's like you're now someone that is not going to go under the blanket of society and just be like this underground tattoo artist that for basically a century, the only way people in like, I'm sure the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s knew all the way up to the 90s knew you were a tattoo artist based on probably your attitude and personality, as well with you had a shit ton of tattoos.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Most of the time, if I tell people, if they're like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm like, oh, I'm a tattoo artist. They're like, oh, that makes sense. Or, oh, I should have guessed that or whatever, you know? Like,
and then the consult comes at the bar.
Yep. Oh yeah.
What do you think about how? I'm like, bro.
I had a guy one time, I was at a bar and he just randomly reached over and like caressed my head tattoo. No. I didn't know the guy. I'm like, what are you doing?
Dog, back up.
He was from Europe. They do it differently over there.
But it's cool that people like have an interest, and you know, it's still the cool part about tattooing, I think, is even though it is readily available on Instagram, television, basically across all platforms, people, it still has that like mystique, and like people still don't, if they're not tattooed and they've never been in tattoo studios, like they don't know really anything about
if I'm out in public and I meet someone or or even like see an old friend of the family that knew me when I was 5, or
Right,
whatever. You know,
right.
they're always very interested in what my day to day looks like, because it's not super common still. Like there's
Right.
more of us than ever before, but it's still, yeah, it's still a little shroud of mystery around what we do with our day to day. And
For sure.
um,
Like we don't go into, if someone says like, I'm a nurse, you're a nurse. I really
cool.
no further questions really. And
Yeah, well, we've all been to the nurse's office,
right,
and
like
we know what they do.
I've broken a bone or two. I'm pretty aware of what you do with
They make sure
most of your
weight's about the
job.
same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's cool to like still have that mysterious aspect, even though Ink Master and all those shows have really shown what it's like inside of a studio.
Yeah.
For I don't want to say the most part, even because it's very cut and tailored to kind of show, even with, for example, people watch Ink Master or LA Ink or whatever, and they think the process is really streamlined while getting a tattoo. Like, oh, I walk in, I say I want a cross. All of a sudden, I'm in the chair getting a cross. I'm out 2 hours later. It's like, it probably takes 2 hours and multiple revisions to even draw that cross to get to the point where you even want to get it tattooed on you. You know what I mean? So I think, in my opinion, Ink Master and some of these shows have actually made our jobs a little bit harder.
It's
in
misleading in that way.
It's misleading. Like when you watch a 30-minute episode of someone getting a full shoulder piece, clients all of a sudden think getting a full shoulder piece takes an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. And it's like, dude, this is possibly multiple sessions, 8-ish plus hours.
Yep. Well, in a lot of those shows,
$1,200.
To your point, they'll have the client walk in, looks like a walk-in. You know,
right.
They've done a consultation for sure. But a lot of the customers or people we work with that maybe watch those shows, they don't see that part. So they think they can just walk in and be like, I want like a half sleeve with like a dragon and a warrior princess or whatever. And
can you pull that out of the file cabinet?
Like, hey, you know what? Go down the street, grab a cup of coffee. Give me an hour and a half. I'll draw something up real quick for you, and then
full sleeve,
and then we'll stick it. You know,
yeah.
Whatever.
It's just
so it
can be a little misleading.
It's a little misleading, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. But
I also really appreciate what it's done for us because, I mean, I think it's fair to say like every person wants to be accepted in this world, even if you are like a renegade and kind of like off-brand or whatever. You still, at least amongst your peers and the people that are interested in what you're interested in, you still want like respect. And I think like before, when I was young, and I'm sure you, like, people looked down on tattoos and people that wore them.
Oh yeah.
And now our grandmothers and grandfathers and whatever have like seen beautiful art on the TV. And when you say I'm a tattoo artist, they don't think you're just like doing cocaine and riding a motorcycle and just doing little like skulls on people. You know,
right.
You can actually be technically one of the world's best fine artists.
Well, yeah, like it was around that same time that Ink Master sort of came out that you had tattoo artists that went to art school and studied fine art, and then they were also like taking the things that they learned in like traditional art school, doing paintings and stuff like that, and taking that knowledge to the tattoo. So, you know, those shows probably had a little bit of it, lended a hand in changing what we do. You know, like
for sure,
what tattoos look like and what tattoos are.
Yeah,
versus what they used to be and what they used to look like.
It's that classic line of like you hear a lot in the tattoo world where they say we stand on the shoulders of giants who paved the way for us, and I think that's something that every single tattooer, especially young tattooers, should acknowledge is where we've been and where we've gone with this is because of the people that pioneered the way. And some people had to take a loss and sell out and go on TV or whatever, but like without them, we really wouldn't be able to make X amount of money, be accepted in society, and do the beautiful art that we do today, which is known as tattooing, you know?
True. And a lot of those, like, it's always a part of our process when we bring a new person in and they're going to apprentice at the shop. Like, part of their journey to becoming a tattoo artist is it's very important to you and I to make sure they know who Sailor Jerry is. They know who Lyle Tuttle is. They know who all these people are that came before them.
Yeah.
And again, sort of shifted what is now the tattoo industry or the tattoo world or whatever. But I think there's a lot of people too that are active tattoo artists today.
No idea.
May or may not know those names.
No.
Based on especially like the vast, like all the different types of people and backgrounds and walks of life that are now tattoo artists versus 10 years ago, what that looked like.
Right.
I think a lot of those people, they have no idea who their forefathers are. It's a bummer. I mean, it's like, again, it is what it is, but
I think though, like, for one, I think, no offense to anyone that doesn't know the history of tattooing or doesn't care. I'm not saying
you should learn.
You should learn. Because it's kind of fucking awesome.
It's like, pretty rad.
One of the fucking dopest
shit. Great stories from those old times.
Dude. And it's like every industry with technology, things change. And I think one of the biggest pivots in who tattoos today is because of Amazon, to be honest. Like 10 years ago, I mean, even 5 years ago, you couldn't buy a machine on Kingpin or Painful Pleasure or whatever and not enter your shop name and like your identification number within like your studio or your certification.
Yeah. And I would get a call from
now. Yeah, right. Like I remember putting it in and like putting your name as like the owner of my shop because they're going to contact you and be like, is this person certified? Are they professional? Did they do their training?
So many calls over the years from Kingpin.
And now all of a sudden, so with that being said, you had to be in a shop. You had to, if you were in a shop, I mean, I guess a lot of people have shitty stories about a really bad apprenticeship and not learning and whatever, the whole thing. And we can go into that later, but they still had to learn. They knew who the fuck Sailor Jerry and Ed Hardy and Lyle Tuttle and all these like people were before us because it was just something that was spoken about a lot in the shop. And now you can just go on Amazon and buy a kit and you're tattooing your friends in your mom's basement. And dude, you see it on Instagram.
Nobody cares.
They're not wearing gloves. Like they're on couches.
Yeah.
Like it's become a lot more available. And so with that, the history starts to become diluted because shit, you can start there not wearing gloves on couches, all that shit, not certified. And if you're like a good artist and have an eye for it and notice your mistakes and start to tinker with your stuff, you may get good and say you all of a sudden get really good and you get into a shop. Like if you're just consumed with your art and your clients, like you could go home and watch sports or, play with Legos or whatever. And like, you don't need to learn the history anymore because you're already doing dope art and you're making good money. Like if you're not interested, you're not going to learn.
What's it matter? Really?
Yeah, right. Really.
Yeah. If you look at, like with you mentioning them going on Amazon and ordering a kit, for sure there's no phone call or screening call to see if you're actually a professional tattoo artist. And I think a lot of those changes, I don't know, where they started by the TV shows making it so widespread of a thing where, because I don't even know. I remember there was years ago, we had an apprentice at the shop and her dad wanted to go on, I think, Kingpin and buy her a gift certificate for when she graduated her apprenticeship. She could then buy a tattoo machine.
Mm-hmm.
They would not let him buy that gift certificate.
Right.
He had to actually drop her name or my name.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it went, but it ruined the surprise for sure.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know. I have a client that tattoos out of his house, and I mean, I think he's just ordering shit off online, like, and no one's asking him. I don't think that's
there's no vetting or verification.
I think if you go on any of the big online distributors,
no, I haven't been asked in a while.
I don't think anybody asks you to verify.
They put a smiley face on my cup on the bottom.
Oh, nice. I've actually
people.
heard they have to do that now.
Oh, really?
Because they did it to me a while back, and I was like, sweet, I got a happy face on my cup. And then I think it was my niece who used to work for Starbucks was like, oh, yeah, they have to do it now.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay.
Sorry for the interlude, but
it was kind of a buzzkill.
Yeah, I thought I was special for a second.
Thought you were special. You're not.
No one's special.
Look here. Mine's
to
on
all
the
your
side.
apprentices out there,
They
you're
didn't
not
even-
special.
they didn't even
Sorry
try to
if
hide
no one's
mine.
ever told you. But yeah, back to, dude, it just, there's no vetting, no verification anymore. I haven't been asked in a long time. And I think that's another shift where it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I know the people that run these companies like to say that they care about the longevity of tattooing and the history and like just the authenticity of our practice. But I mean, money's money. Money talks at the end of the day. And I think they're like, well, if they're going to get it on Amazon and they're not going to vet them, why the fuck should we? Like, we want that money.
Why should we take a hit?
Right.
And let Amazon cash out, which
Right.
they're already cashing out.
On shitty products that actually like won't. Not to say if you're buying your needles or your machines on Amazon, yes, a great tattooer can do. I mean, shit, they can do an amazing tattoo with a toothbrush and a battery and a pen, but in a sewing needle. It's just if you don't know how to tattoo at all, and you don't even know how to stretch skin and properly like put a needle into the skin or apply the tattoo, you're starting really far behind with a machine that has inconsistent fluctuation of voltage and wobbly cartridges that aren't inspected properly, and they're just slapped together in China by some company that literally has nothing to do with tattooing, by a person that probably doesn't even own a tattoo or have a tattoo, you know. So,
I wonder if any of that, like, I wonder if any of the vetting by those online retailers stopped because of COVID. Because I remember when COVID moved in, COVID reared its ugly head, as it were, I was stoked because I was like, oh, I can get all the gloves I want. I can get all the Maticide I want off of these websites because no one else is going to be able to buy it.
Right.
And then slowly, though, and who knows, it might have even been law where they had to sell their gloves to probably hospitals and stuff like that.
That's when cases went from $40 to $170 to pretty much
almost
overnight.
$400 a case at one.
Yeah, it was
gloves like.
And I think the supply just on the world level, I mean, we have to think about like on a daily basis, tattoo artists alone, not including hairdressers, doctors, dentists, like probably using 20 million gloves,
millions for
more.
Sure.
I don't know. Like just it's insane.
Yeah, but I bet that had something to do with it. But I also think your point is better of when they're seeing Amazon and people just buy them, because there's always been that handful of retailers that were tattoo specific that never did any vetting.
Right.
So like I remember when I first got into tattooing and I was learning at my apartment, I had a friend that was a professional tattoo artist in a different state, and he gave me a list of websites. He was like, you can order from this one, this one, this one. They'll never ask or care if you're in a shop. And that's where I got, but you couldn't get back then. Remember that? Like if you went on those websites, you couldn't get the good shit.
No, the good shit was
That was always vetted and protected and
yeah.
carefully selected who could purchase that. But
And I mean, it really shows a difference to you young tattooers. Like, for one, get an apprenticeship for real. And I mean, it's just, I was always told, big into golf, like a great golfer can hit a good shot with a broomstick. Don't bitch about your equipment. But at the end of the day, like, it pays to use good stencil paper, proper gloves, good needles. You know, I mean, just even to the rubber bands. I mean, you go to like the dollar store and wrap your coil with some shitty ass rubber bands. Like, they're snapping, the tension's all different. Like, people will be like, why would I spend $7 on 100 rubber bands, the little black ones? It's like, because they're all the same, and every tattoo you do will feel exactly the same, and
they're
you want that repetition
Yep.
to become. I mean, no one wants to tinker with their shit, going back to the coils. And like, when it was all we had and that was the only option, was to be borderline a little bit of a mechanic and understand like coils and just everything that came with that.
An electromagnetic circuit.
Yeah. The hot versus cold and all the things that you had to know to just basically turn your machine on. Like, when that's the world you live in, yeah, you just adapt. But like now, going back to the modernization of like the rotaries and the cartridges, like, I can tell a difference between the like Stigma needles off Amazon, because I've used kind of basically from the bottom to the top tiers of things, and just through apprentices and everyone in the shop, just ordering different stuff, and like, yeah, let me try it.
Try that.
If it's $50 less for a box, like, shit, I'll give it a try.
If it works, that's my new go-to.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, if it works, I'm down to use it. I don't really give a shit about the brand. But all my, sorry to throw you on blast, like my Mass machines, those last a year versus my Bishops and Cheyennes last, I don't know, they haven't shit out on me yet. Right. And even if they do, it's an email to Bishop, hey, my motor's fluctuating, just weird. And they're like, send it in. If it's within a certain time, they do it for free. If not, I just spend $80 to get a new little motor. And then they sign off on the piece of paper who looked at it, who replaced it, who checked it. And like,
a lot of times that's who you talk to on the phone.
Right. Like, it's, so I'm spend the money and then you'll be protected. And
they take care of you.
Yeah.
I've never had anything but awesome customer service from Bishop as I've had from me. You know, like they're pretty on point with it.
But going back to the needles, yeah, like using the shitty ones versus like Quadrans or Da Vinci's or whatever, you know, the needle of your choices from a big company that like is for tattooers by tattooers. The consistency of it is really what I'm looking for. I don't want to like pull a big ass line on somebody and wipe and have it be like, because the needle's not centered in the cartridge or whatever. Like, I know when I pull out a 14 round shader out of my Da Vinci box, like, I'll push it up and I can see it's right in the middle 95% of the time. And like, we're good to go.
And from my experience, like, some needles work better with some machines.
Definitely.
Versus not. Like, I feel like I can't just plug any needle into my Cheyenne pen machine right now and they're all going to do the same thing equally.
No.
Like, a lot of times
some don't even like really like go in and click.
They don't click in all the way.
They'll pop out.
Or they pop out.
Rattle.
Or they slowly back out.
Yeah.
Or they rattle. It sounds like a coil.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how I pick my needles a fair amount of the time. Is like, oh, dude, this thing was like, it went in perfect. It stayed in. It didn't vibrate. It didn't fall out.
Right.
That's my brand right there. And whether it's a more expensive brand or it's a cheaper brand, that's what happens to work the best with what I
your
purchase.
Tool.
Yeah.
And like, that kind of goes back to being a tattooer with coils before rotaries came out, you had to, it was like tuning a guitar. A well-tuned coil machine, it was like a beautiful sound to hear 3 or 4 of them going at the same time because they like hummed in synchron. They were synchronized. And now with the rotaries, it's honestly the same thing. You just need to know what to listen for and feel. And that's why I really don't understand, like, more power to the artists that wear like Bose noise canceling or Apple noise canceling headphones. But it's like, for one, I want to talk to my client and hear them and have a conversation. But two, like, I want to hear my machine and my cartridge and the hum.
Oh, dude.
You know, just to make sure my tool is working properly.
Every time I've tried a new cartridge, you pop that fucker in and you hit the gas pedal. Within seconds, you can pretty much tell if that's going to be a good needle for you,
or just
if you're just going to throw it in the fucking trash right now. It belongs.
And like even the sound while you're running it dry versus like you're like, oh, this is kind of weird, I don't really love it. Dip it into your ink cap and you're like, okay, we're good. It's just
it's just dry.
It needed that ink.
Yeah. Well, cool. And so I think this is a good time to segue into like probably one of the biggest changes in the past 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it's been, is those cartridges.
Yeah.
You remember before, if you wanted 3 needles,
3 machines,
or the whole nightmare situation of like lining the tattoo with your liner machine and then coloring or shading with your 7 mag, getting all that in with your 7 mag where you needed it to, and then like, okay, now I'm going to take that needle out. I'm going to put in a 25 mag or whatever.
That's fucking hell.
And then every time you did that, there would be what, 2-3 points in your tattoo where you're like, shit, I need to put the 7 mag back in. So then you're like, and you're changing out like,
and this is like
live
15 minutes
dirty needles, you know, like
intervals. At
so
least.
They've eliminated that whole situation. You can have one machine
with 45 different configurations.
You can have as many needles as you want.
And that,
whatever your pocketbook allows.
Honestly. And I think that really made the whole same thing where it was like, you can hit a good golf shot with the broomstick if you know what the fuck you're doing. But you now all of a sudden, instead of making it work, you have the exact tool you need. Like you can go from like toning out an entire side of a cheek with like some really light gray wash with the 35 curve mag to all of a sudden, oh shit, I want to drop a little bit of white into the eye real quick because I didn't catch that. And it's just click, click, white, boom, we're in there. Pull that back out, 35 back in, back shading or whatever, you know, like, and it saves the customer time and money because we're not sitting there fucking with our stuff. And
and the clock's running, whether you're tattooing or you're swapping needles out or whatever.
Time.
But like to that point,
the work escalated. I mean, that's when we really started seeing.
Because before, if you had 2 machines, you were kind of splitting the difference with what needle you use. You're like, well, you know, perfect world, I got a 11 round for my outline or whatever, but you know, I also need as small as a 7 for some of the detail lines or whatever.
Some hairs and eyelashes.
So then you might just pour the set or set up the 7 and then double stroke or triple stroke where you needed the fatties. Same with your shaders, you know, like maybe you're just like dancing on the corner of that with 17 curve mag, like for some of your detail sections.
That you really want to be using a 9 curve with.
So I would bet probably the number one style that jumped the most from being able to have essentially 40 different machines set up would be realism.
I would say the same. Realism, like you said, I mean, if I'm doing a realism piece, I still don't ever really use more than like 6 cartridges per tattoo.
I usually have 6 to 7 on a realism piece.
And I try to kind of split it where I'll do like a 3 liner. I'll either go 5 excuse me, I'll always skip a grouping. So if I have a 3, then my next size up is a 7. I won't ever do like 3, 5, and 7. The 5 in the middle is too close to both of them. There's no point.
Yeah,
so like, but you always want that gap in between. And who wants to set up 3 liners to do a tattoo as well as 2 shaders? Like, oh, and by the way, this pen costs, if you get a good one, $1,000 roughly. But if you have 5 coils set out and they're like dope Cubans or Mickey Sharps or whatever, like you're looking at 3-4 grand in tattoo machines right there, plus tubes and grips, like, and cords. Like this
good luck finding a tray big enough.
Yeah, that fucking A, dude. You have like a whole entire. Now you're dealing with bumping it, and like it's just chaos.
Yeah.
So that to me, like, I totally understand the people that like want to line with a coil, and then they have their rotary to do all their mag work with. That I still think is one of the most baller moves.
Yeah.
But man, dude, I don't miss having minimum 3 machines set up for a tattoo. That just, I can't do that anymore.
One, do you remember, and this was kind of a weird time, I feel, when like cartridges came out, but they were intended for, I think the original cartridges were created by Cheyenne, and it was for the Hawk.
Yeah.
That was the machine they had out. Mm-hmm. That was a pen style machine. So when cartridges became like, people realized the benefits of them, started using them, buying them. Everyone was still using like Bishop B5s or even coil machines.
Right.
So then you had to buy the
plunger,
special tube and the plunger and the special tube that would take those cartridges.
Yep.
You know, but it still didn't eliminate things like autoclaving, scrubbing tubes.
Totally.
Which I think
you're still bagging it like you would a coil. Like it's, the hot and cold sequence was still a
you
part
still had
of it.
A needle bar with the plunger, like, and
garments, all that.
Yeah, and it didn't make your coils work any better or different.
Like, to me, there was really
it didn't make them worse either. But everyone was just kind of like rigging their stuff to work with these cartridges.
Even though it was probably just easier to run a coil. Or run one of those with a full needle bar.
Needle bar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could still run a needle bar in the V6 or the Hawk or the Michelangelo, like Microangelo.
Yeah. I mean, I had a rubber band on my, even though it had the little clip on the Bishops.
Yeah.
Like, that was like.
Double wrap it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if that clip broke, you had to put something on there.
Which
it's a little bitty plastic thing.
Tiny. Yeah.
Of course it's going to break.
Of course.
But. But there is another advantage of the cartridge and the pen, because like I remember when my first shop went all disposable. So we had to declare that with the health department. We didn't have an autoclave anymore. It was just, I think the original owner of the shop before I was an owner, gave us all like a $400 per diem to make that swap, because you had to buy those tubes we just talked about. But not having to clean tubes anymore was like, once everybody went to pens, I would think that's one of the coolest benefits of cartridges.
Oh, for sure. I was like,
and the pen style machine. Like,
even, I mean, I love the traditional aspect of tattooing and coils, and I think they always have a place, but I'll never let someone like make me feel bad about using a dildo or a pen or whatever. It's like, and I just wanted to note on like, remember when you were doing like a tattoo on like the bottom of the jaw and you needed to whip shade down and you had to hold that awkward ass machine backwards and like borderline upside down? Now your connection points are like kind of like glitching on you and it's not smooth, and that back weight. Yeah. Like now with a pen and a battery, which I actually am kind of hardlined in, and I know you are most of the time. Pretty much every time.
Yeah.
The work got so much better when the connection was always solid. There wasn't a crazy amount of back weight plus swivel with your hot and cold power cord. And now it's like I could literally suspend upside down and just like get in there, no problem.
Yeah.
Like even on like we could do the inside of the ear, and it's like before it just was. It was shaky.
It's a lot less of a nightmare situation. Yep.
Plus your hand at the end of the day, it was just, we talked about that. It was just, dude, like,
yep.
I'm happy we're at where we're at with.
I am too.
I don't really want them to get smaller. I see the like microblading ones for the eyes, and they're like your like stick and poke little thing you have where you can put a cartridge. They're tiny little fuckers, and like, there's a reason why we all put paper towels or ready wrap, whatever. Like, we still like having the dexterity of something large in your hand when you're doing it that much. The tiny arthritis, probably. But yeah, so I mean, I honestly think like right where we're at right now, the batteries could get lighter, is what I think would be.
Yeah, if you're tattooing with a battery, that's still very much, I think, like a coil.
They need to be 8 hours minimum on, because I was getting a tattoo the other day from our apprentice Lily, and like she thought she had charged her battery, and it wasn't like I was in a rush to get somewhere, but I did want to go home to eat dinner, and I hadn't eaten all day and forgot I had an appointment. And then mid tattoo, we're like about to shade, and she's like, it just, and I was like, oh my God. And she's like, my battery just died and I don't have a backup. And I was just like, bro, now we just got to sit here and like
wait for this.
Just wait for this. Oh, and then it doesn't like a fast charger. It like for some reason doesn't charge on a fast charger. So like we got to go the like shitty charger mode where it's like 1% every fucking 3 minutes or something. And I'm like, all right, let's just try to get enough juice to like shade the rest. And she's like, well, maybe we just won't finish today. And I'm like, that's not an option, bro. Like, I really want to finish this tattoo tonight, even if we got to chill and like go get some food or something.
It's not a huge tattoo,
but it's also not big. And I don't want to heal the same area twice if I don't have to. Like, let's just get in, get out.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I never liked getting tattoos from like people that avidly like smoke half a pack during a session, because like they consistently need, well, back in the day when they could smoke in the shop, that was dope. But having to leave to go outside and like sit and you're like shirts off and you're like kind of cold and shaking and you're like hurting. And you're like, I just want to like, your endorphins were already up. You were laying down, you're comfortable. Now it's like, oh, fuck, I gotta go.
Every time you take a break and then you come back,
it hurts worse.
10 times.
It hurts worse. I don't care who you are. Like, especially if it's on like your head or the top of your foot or like your pelvis. You're just like, bro.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not hating on smokers. I smoked for 10 years, but it's just, it sucked. And the batteries go alongside with that. It's just another break.
They're going to it's like they're just dwindling while you smoke break or whatever.
We need to get, that's the next step of technology, I think. Longer lasting batteries, faster charging, lighter,
smaller, lighter batteries. Yep.
So on that note, guys, we wanted to shout out Mike D's Auto Works. He had a comment for us on our last video. I'll let you.
Yeah, and he basically was he had sort of a two-part question, I guess. Number one was, what was our journey, evolution to improvement in both of our careers? So like, I guess I'm translating that question as like, what styles have you kind of preferred to work with over the years? And then if you have any insight on how or why you transition from
X to Y,
preferring this style to that, and I'll let you lead off since I just asked the question there. But
I think, Mike, I always loved traditional, just in the sense of they look like a tattoo, like when you see that like panther head or the tiger or whatever, like it's just like you can see it from across the pool. It's badass. Like I really fell in love with that. I like black and gray for myself personally. I have color tattoos, but I fell in love with the look of like an American traditional or Japanese traditional tattoo. And I think that was what I went after first, because that's the person that taught me how to tattoo was really into that. And so that just kind of, he kind of like steered me in the direction. Once you know how to line and saturate black and color, then you can branch off into any realm of tattooing you want. So these are like the core foundations, and American traditional or Japanese is going to cover that for you, technical ability wise. So still love traditional, always will, love to draw. It's my favorite thing. I would rather that than make a collage out of like imagery for a realism piece or something like that. And I don't draw a ton of like charcoal realism. I would prefer to grab images and make collages and whatnot. And so, but now I think people would say that I'm probably a better black and gray artist. Like, I wouldn't say like portrait realism, but more realism than illustrative, I guess you could say. Less lines, a lot more shading, negative space, things like that. It just speaks, my style speaks louder than that. There's a lot of great drawers in the world. I'd say I'm more in the middle of like creativity. So that's where my traditional is going to lack in my drawings. And for black and gray, I was a graphic designer. And so I'm able to make really cool collages and stuff. And then transferring that into ink with black and gray has probably been my stronger suit and more sought out for what people ask. And what about you?
Same. I started with American traditional is kind of what all I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I had taken a seminar with Jeff Gogway
Badass.
early in my career, I guess. And he was kind of talking about like, you should take this photograph of this rose or this skull or whatever and make that and draw it and make that drawing into a tattoo.
Yeah.
So dumb it down where it needs to be dumbed down, and to where you could look across the room and tell what it was, and it was bold and clear.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I started.
Yeah.
I would say fairly quick evolution, because the thing is where I started my career, there was just not a lot of people looking for traditional tattoos.
Right. It phased out in like 2010 for a bit there.
So I couldn't really sell them. I feel like if you
in
were
our neck of the woods,
in bigger cities, sure, all day long, right? Mm-hmm. But and then pretty quick transition to neo-traditional.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I don't know. I hovered there for a long time. I still love a good neo-traditional tattoo. And
yeah, you do.
I still enjoy doing them. But I would say painterly realism or just realism in general is kind of
color realism
where I live most of the time now, color realism.
Stemming from like your painting style. Like
so this is what transferred into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I at some point in my career, I realized like I can learn from what I do here to what I do there.
Yeah.
And I can learn from what I do on a tattoo to what I do on canvas. And it's always been a back and forth. Like I feel like I've gone from like painting a ton to then pulling that new knowledge into tattooing, and then doing a bunch of tattoos that are realistic or painterly realism.
Totally.
And then I'll learn little tricks and things there that I can.
It's like the hand that keeps on giving.
It's a good cycle.
Yeah.
It feeds off itself.
I love it.
So there's that. And then the other part of his question was inspirations and changes in style. So I guess we kind of already answered that a little bit, but do you have any other sort of inspirations why you
for sure
went from one to the other?
My favorite artist, most inspiring artist that tattoos and paints, Carlos Torres. Not growing up, I grew up in Colorado, but going to college in Southern California and moving to LA, I really wanted a big back piece, and I was just looking at black and gray work, and I knew I wanted black and gray, which I ended up getting a color neo-traditional back piece. But his work to me was like, fuck, man, like this is 16 Chapel, like, dude, this is some fucking crazy. And I just didn't. I had seen.
I reference his work still all the time.
Tons of black and gray Chicano art in my life, family from New Mexico and whatnot, and just lowrider culture and all that. But dude, his shit just spoke to me in a way that I hadn't been spoken to through really much art in my life. And I was like, if he's on 10, if I could just get on 3, I'd be satisfied. And to me, it's something that I know that I'll probably never master, just like most styles in art, you just grow. But I wanted to be something like him and try to have my art speak that way.
I mean, his work it was very different at the time. It still is. Like, I feel like you can spot a Carlos Torres piece across the room.
His composition is
no problem. Yeah, his composition
just as good as his technical
all
ability.
The filigree work and how that plays in and out with the subject matter and all the textures.
It's fucking
badass. That's a
Vega too. Like, I always loved his art too. So yeah, it's just.
Who was the other guy?
Vega.
Oh yeah.
Chicano dude, Southern California.
Yeah.
Just smooth black and gray.
Yeah.
Really nice shit. High contrast.
Yep. For me, one of my original and I would say biggest inspirations was always Jeff Gogwe.
Yeah.
After I went to a couple of his seminars, like, my old business partner used to always say, like, that seminar just like turned a switch on in my head.
Yes, I remember that.
They were very much like, I mean, I was just inspired like crazy, like always drawing, always working in that style, always looking to make something different or unique, you know?
He was very, very transformative. Like, he brought that whole realism to Neo, but also had like Japanese, and it was just this like crazy cool combination.
It was kind of a unique style.
For sure, man. I still think he's one of the most unique tattooers as far as composition style.
I do refer to him very much as like a grandfather of neo-traditional.
For sure, man.
Now he does work a lot more in the Japanese, but he worked with, Shige and stuff like that. But Shige,
fuck. Another huge. It's really hard. I mean, it's like when you see these masters, you're just like, I want to go this. It's like this, like pulling
so many. Yeah, like
which direction do I go?
For me, with the painterly realism, like most of them, I can't even really pronounce their names. I feel like most of those guys are in Italy.
Yeah,
and gals.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're not here.
What's her name? Out of Texas, Deanna. Her shit's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Sarah Miller is from Texas too and does
some beautiful work. Teresa also sharp. Like, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of inspiration in tattooing. People that brought it really, really far, way further than I would have ever thought when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Constantly inspired, I'd say.
Yeah.
Forever evolving. And I don't like to be like put in a box.
No. I think, like, I've always told apprentices that work under me or even at my shops is like, once you know how to line work, like once you can throw down a good line, you can saturate color, you can do smooth gray wash and shading. Like, now the playing field is level. Congratulations, you can do a solid fucking tattoo. Just like 400,000 other people on the planet.
Now your composition and drawing.
So the only thing that separates you from all those other people that know how to tattoo well starts right here on the drawing table, or these days on the tablet.
Yeah.
But your creativity is the only thing that's going to pull you ahead or pull you back and keep you behind.
100%.
And that's always remained true. It doesn't matter what machine you're using or
era
or when you were a tattooer. Like, that's always been true, and I believe it will always be true.
I agree with that. Even with like AI and stuff, like it's just there are people using AI, which I don't condone or like super agree with, because that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. But like some people are more creative with what prompts they put into AI to generate certain images for references for their drawings that they create. And it all starts in the mind.
Well, and I think AI is, I'm a little bit on your page with it, right? Like I think we should still be drawing. Like I think, to me, it's not a big difference in like people using the stamps that you can purchase for your Procreate app. It's like that. I think that's taking us back to Flash, because that's all you're doing.
When you bought like
you're
Cherry
buying
Creek
designs,
Flash, and 100 shops had the same 10 sheets.
20 years ago, you were buying Flash sheets, you were buying designs.
Yeah.
Now you're buying stamps, you're buying designs. Like, but either way, you're not doing them.
No.
So,
and that's fine, but
you're only going to be pumping out stuff that's as creative as everyone else that's using that same shit.
Right.
But if you do know how to draw, and you do know how to create, and you do have a creativity well that you can tap into, then you should, because again, that's going to create that separation.
Right. I was like, you just separated yourself from half of the artists.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. Who knows?
And on the AI thing, it's like, I hear a lot of people say, like, if in this industry, if you're not using AI, you're going to fall behind. I disagree with that.
I do too. And I think we should talk about having an entire AI.
That can be a whole nother episode.
Because it's vast.
There's something to look forward to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But I think creativity is
king.
For
it
sure.
Really is. Yeah. All right, guys. Well,
I think that's a wrap, right? We covered everything we have to talk about today.
We're trying to keep these around like an hour and 10 minutes for you guys. Just not to drag, you know.
Yeah. Simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Anyway, thank you guys for all your support. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, all the things. And like Mike D's Auto Works here, like if you want to hear about something, we will talk about your questions on the comments every single time. We are also still working on getting this onto other platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. If you don't want to see our crazy looking people here sitting here talking to you, you can just listen to it. And that'll be coming up pretty soon. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Till next time.
Yes.